briefly reading through a new book entitled Sacred Cows Make Gourmet Burgers. This is a book by William Easton, who writes, "Established churches must either cease worshiping the God of control or perish." They must cease worshiping the God of control or perish. I find that very interesting, very poignant. Brian Stoffagan says something very similar in his reflections on the scriptures for this week. He writes, "In my experience, people can place in stone a past gracious act of God, so that they are unable to see the present activities of God." He goes on to say, "I've heard testimonies from people about the wonderful way that God had saved them or had healed them way back in their past history. And they continue to live off of that memory. But I wonder," he says, "what is God doing in their lives right now?" My friends, this is the invitation that I think our gospel lesson extends to us today. To come and receive God's grace right now, today. To see the signs in the bread and the wine, the water and in the Word. And then to be signs of God's grace in the world. Just like our new ELCA motto says, God's work, our hands. You know, Martin Luther ends his section on baptism in the Small Catechism by talking about daily baptisms. For him, what is important is our daily walk with God today, in the present. That is what is key. That is what is important for Luther. And when we do, when we walk wet daily, like we did in New Orleans and in Ocean Springs, and not just from the humidity, although it felt that way. When we walk wet daily, then we see the signs. We see the reflections of the Messiah in the world around us. Just like one of our youth shared on our last night in Ocean Springs. We got done with our devotion. We talked about Jesus' sightings. And I asked, what are the sightings, what are the reflections of the Messiah that you've seen this week? And she raised her hand, and I could tell right away that something profound had happened, because her eyes were all glassy and watery, and I thought, here comes a good one. And she says, "You know, Pastor Brent, we got to work at a house today." And I said, "Really, what was it like?" She said, "Well, the older gentleman that was there was really, really nice, and he loved to talk a lot, and told stories. And we were trying to help him and trying to get his house fixed up." And she said, "But I kept coming back, and I found myself wanting to talk with him over and over again and just hear his stories." And I said, "Why was that?" And she taking a deep breath and trying to get the words out. She said, "It's the funniest thing." She said, "He sounded like my grandfather." She said, "Even the house and even himself, he smelled like my grandfather." She said, "My grandfather passed away just a few years ago." And she said, "And so how wonderful it was for her to be able to spend a day with her grandfather again." She looked at me and she said, "I'm so glad, I'm so thankful that I came on this trip." I look at that experience and I think, that is being able to see the reflection of the Messiah, right? What a powerful experience, what a wonderful gift. And I am so glad that I was there to see it. A beautiful sign of God's present grace. And so this morning, may God bless you with open eyes to see the signs of grace that have been given to us, to the world. May God bless you with open hearts to receive them into your life right now. And may God bless you with open hands to share them with anyone you come across on your journey of faith.